Hi, I'm Courtney Reed, and today I'll be talking to you guys about immigration. So, since we all live in America, we have at one point or another in our lives known an immigrant. Now, whether or not they were legal immigrants is a different story. I would like to start off with the fact that we all came from immigrants. It's nothing new. Immigration has been talked about in America for hundreds of years, and it's most likely not going to change. You are most likely from an immigrant unless you are completely Native American. But if you aren't, which most of us aren't, then at one point in your ancestors' lives, they left their home country and came here. So, what's so different about immigration then versus immigration now? Let's explore that. So, the first big migrations to America started in the early 1600s with people called the Pilgrims. You've most likely heard of them before because they are very famous for what they did. They left Europe to seek religious freedom because they did not adhere to the same religion that the king had. Now, it was still all under Christianity, it just wasn't the specific denomination that the king was, and they were persecuted because of that. So they left in search of a better life for them and their children so that they could raise their families the way that they wanted to without being persecuted. However, after the Pilgrims and when more European immigrants started to come to America, they started to force other people to follow their religion. And if they didn't follow the same religion that they had, then they were again persecuted. So they kind of became hypocrites because they left because they were being mistreated because of what they believed in, but then they turned around and mistreated others because they didn't believe the same that they did, which doesn't really make sense. Seeking religious freedom is not the only reason that Europeans came to America. In the mid 1800s, a great famine swept across Ireland, killing 20 to 25% of its population, according to Britannica Online. Due to this mass starvation and hunger, many people emigrated from Ireland into America. African Americans, as you know, came to America as slaves on African slave ships. They came to a country that they did not know, were expected to learn English, and serve others. They were stripped of every aspect of their humanity and their culture, so they had to improvise. Slaves used things like dance, music, and different hairstyles in order to cherish their home African culture. Now, they did have to assimilate into American society by usually converting to Christianity, but they used that to their advantage. The slaves became very spiritual after converting to Christianity. They sang hymns about freedom and were always comforted by the fact that when they got to heaven, they would finally be free. Today in America, people will disrespect immigrants because they do not understand English or they do not understand American culture or society. Our ancestors were technically illegal immigrants. Nobody asked Native Americans permission to settle on their lands. We technically stole America right out from under the Native Americans' noses. We forced them to convert to our religions, sometimes even enslaved them, and killed them with our diseases. Native Americans, in my opinion, are the only true Americans. The extermination of Native Americans should be taught in schools as a genocide. Everybody knows the story about the Pilgrims and how they taught them how to hunt and farm so that they didn't starve that first winter in America. So, if the Native Americans hadn't have helped the Pilgrims, we might not be where we are today, honestly. Today, Native Americans are among the poorest ethnic groups in the country. The reservations that they live on are solely controlled by the federal government. The federal government misuses Native American lands time and time again. Do you remember the Dakota pipeline that was going to be built on Native American lands? I do. I remember that everyone was afraid that there was going to be an oil spill and the fact that the Native Americans had not given the federal government permission to build a pipeline on their land. An oil spill did happen, and it did do significant damage to the Native Americans' reservation and the environment around the pipeline. The federal government has done many distasteful things towards Native Americans for its own economic gain. Immigrants do more for our economy than we even realize. According to Vitana.org, illegal immigration provides local economies with a boost. Illegal immigrants tend to make their money under the table, but it still does boost the economy because when they buy goods from Walmart or Costco or something, it goes back into the local economy. 60% of illegal immigrants have been in this country for over 10 years. 1 in 3 illegal immigrants live with someone who is a U.S. citizen, and 1 in 3 also own a home and pay property taxes. Immigrants come here illegally because it is too difficult to come into the country legally. In order to even apply for citizenship, you have to live here for 5 years permanently. Families are separated every day in this country due to deportations. Something that has been in the media a lot recently is that dreamers are starting to be deported for small things like traffic violations. A dreamer is a person that was brought into this country illegally by their parents when they were very young. If someone is brought into this country illegally when they're a child, it is not their fault and they should not be punished for that. Also, sending someone to a country that they have never lived in a place that they have never known, is actually morally wrong. There has also been a travel ban implemented on most Muslim countries. If you know anything about the Middle East, you will know that they are currently in significant turmoil, and Syria is in the middle of a civil war with refugees being taken out of the country every single day. This country has never been ours. America was obtained wrongfully by Native Americans that lived here for hundreds of years before us. Most of the people that we see today are descendants of immigrants. America is a young country and still has much to learn. People should not be ridiculed or disrespected for trying to get a better life for their family. This country was created by immigrants for immigrants. Let's never forget about that. Thank you.